Who's hot and who's not? It's our minor league edition of Chicago Cubs Central. Let's talk about it right after this. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. Thank you, everybody. Shout out to everybody that tunes in, that watches the episodes, that get in tune with your boy, that comment, that call, that leave voicemails, text messages, all those different things. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Also, make sure if you haven't already, go ahead and join our Facebook group. That's right. We got a whole Chicago Cubs Central Facebook group, constant videos being posted in there, snapshots of different parts of the game, as well as episodes, as well as all other content being dropped there first. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys, over there. Shout out to all of you that make that page go. Now, with that being said, listen, there's no baseball tonight. So you're like, man, what the heck, Mike? What are we talking about? Well, let's talk about the future. I actually want to expand this channel. I've been talking to the rest of the Central family. And one of the things we talked about in our group chat was how we can be better and better service our channel and our viewership. And I think one way I could better service you guys is not just always commenting on the big league team. Why? Because let's be honest. You got multiple other channels that do the big league team, but very few actually cover what's going on in the minors and what's going on with the draft, which are two big, huge things coming up for the Chicago Cubs, even more so for the Chicago White Sox with that high pick, but also for the Chicago Cubs. So I want to start off the very first episode of the Minor League Watch. And I want to do this by basically breaking down who's hot right now in the minors for the Chicago Cubs and who should we have our eyes on that could potentially get called up to that next level. Now, first things first, let's look at the records for the Cubs, the Iowa Cubs. They are 8-6 right now, a solid start to the season. They are above 500. So Iowa is playing good baseball right now, sitting above 500. And that's important because it's where your MLB ready talent is. These aren't just prospects. These are the call-up options. So these are a lot of the guys that when people go down in the majors, as we've seen already, when injuries do happen, these are the people you're going to call on. These are the guys that you're going to pray and hope that they can come up and add some value on the big league level. Next up, let's look at the high A South Bend Cubs. So earlier in the season, they were around 10-11, 11-6 range, showing consistent winning baseball. Right now, they are a 12-8 record. So South Bend is winning games too. That matters because of development. Really, you look at the South Bend Cubs, that's where you want your development to be. You want guys to develop good habits. You want guys to develop a winning culture. Usually this means guys are doing the right things down there. And it won't be long before they get called up to AAA Iowa and they get an opportunity to show what they can do there. So, like I said, it's one of those things where we're looking at both these clubs, especially with the amount of injuries that the Chicago Cubs have faced. And I just want to look on today's episode and talk about some of these guys that I truly believe might end up eventually getting the call to the majors. Or even if they don't get a call to the majors, they could help lead the Cubs to a successful season this year, or be in South Bend making waves because we may need them a year from now. Now, numero uno, let's talk about it. James Triantos. James Triantos is somebody that I talked about in spring training a lot. Have not mentioned him since the regular season started, but with the day off and with me wanting to really hit it hard, at least one episode a week, strictly talking about what's going on in AAA Iowa. James Triantos is definitely going to be a name that you continuously hear me talk about. He is somebody that we will monitor. James Triantos, one of the top hitters in Iowa right now, among the team leaders in runs scored. Triantos continues to do what he's always done: hit the ball. He's a contact-first guy with developing pop and versatility. So why could he be called up? He's already on the 40-man roster. He's a high contact bat, and he fits a struggling Cubs offense at times. And he could play multiple infield spots. So, I mean, let's just say, God forbid, that Dansby Swanson went down with that injury. But I know that he rested a couple of games due to having soreness in his thigh. But he did still, like I said, he didn't hit the IL that we know of just yet. But let's just say if he did end up hitting the IL, you could absolutely put James Triantos on the bench. I know that Matt Shaw would see most of the time at second base, and Nico would see moments at where would probably get the majority of the shortstop. But should Matt Shaw need to play another role or another spot, you could absolutely give James Triantos a spot at second base or have him sub in for him. So again, that's just something to think about. He is somebody that we ought to all keep our eyes on. James Triantos is a hitter, man. I like what he does. He's a contact guy first. Again, he's of the same cloth ilk of a Nico Horner when it comes to that. So that's something you need to think about. Somebody that could drive in your RBIs, somebody that can also play decent defense out there in the infield. Next up, we're going to talk about Pedro Ramírez. Pedro Ramírez's name has been all over social media when you're talking about none other than the not the Chicago Cubs. When you're talking about the Cubs minor league system, Pedro Ramírez, his slash line right now, as of right now, guys, 295, 358, 590, and an OPS of 948. So that OPS jumps off the page. Nearly a 950 OPS in AAA. That's not just hot, y'all. That's MLB ready production. This guy is an infielder. He can play multiple positions also in the infielder. He has elite contact. He has a speed combo. He's already considered close to MLB ready defensively, and he could fit the utility role immediately. The Chicago Cubs really have some options down in AAA again. And this is just another one of those that we definitely ought to be looking at because he's somebody that we could absolutely see potentially get called up and get some time to shine throughout the dog days of summer before the team starts gearing up for a postseason run. Somebody else that we need to look at, and somebody who is been talked about a lot. Shout out to my man Tyrone, like I said, because he's constantly always sending me videos and stuff from X about this young man, Kevin Alcántara. What is there to say about Kevin Alcántara that had already be said? Well, one thing, dude is hitting bombs this season. 7 home runs already for the season, a 996 OPS in limited games. The power is real for Alcántara. And he is showing why he's one of the most exciting prospects in the Chicago Cubs system. This guy plays outfield. Again, he has power and athleticism combo. He's on the 40-man roster. The Cubs could use him for outfield spark should there be a point this season that they need to do so. But also, one thing you got to look at with him, there is the concern. Why? Because his strikeouts are high. But that's when you're hitting for power. That's going to happen. Very, very seldomly do you get somebody like a Moises Ballesteros that can hit for power and also not strike out. Now, Moises Ballesteros will ground out a lot, but he doesn't strike out. He covers the whole base path with his bat, and he's able to put the ball into play more often than not. Now, if he finds a gap, well then, or he finds the bleachers. I mean, that's pretty much your question. But he's going to hit the ball. He very rarely ever strikes out. Kevin Alcántara is still working towards getting that, but he has found his power this season. Personally, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I think Kevin Alcántara is gonna get traded. Eventually, I think the Chicago Cubs, if they do need to make a move, I don't think Craig Counsell likes him. We already have the news reports of earlier this season, in spring training where Craig Counsell stopped practice. I think Kevin Alcántara was running the bases wrong, and he yelled at everybody, but including Kevin Alcántara, which is something you don't see often because Craig Counsell never really shows any emotion, but he chose that moment to show emotion and to yell at Kevin Alcántara. Don't know how well that's set with Kevin, but I also don't know what Craig feels about him. But I thought multiple times this season that he could have been called up, especially when the Cubs were struggling offensively early on. And he had a hot bat, which he has kept that hot bat. So that's that. Then we look at Jonathan Long, first baseman. He is hitting 297, a 375 OBP, and a 797 OPS. So quietly producing. But this is a don't sleep on him type of guy. He really depends on the roster need, but he is trending up fast. And I hate to say this, but with Michael Bush struggling like he is, you could very well end up seeing Jonathan Long get a shot in the majors this year if he continues this type of production because of the way Michael Bush is struggling. Now, I believe Craig Counsell is going to give Michael Bush every bit of opportunity this season. But if Michael Bush wants to get the lion's share of first base ABs, he's going to have to start producing, because otherwise, with guys like Jonathan Long producing down in AAA, eventually Craig gonna start looking down there at that shiny new toy and say, well, maybe we ought to give him a shot. So once again, the takeaway from that segment in Iowa, our Iowa guys, these aren't just prospects anymore. These are legit options. If injuries keep piling up at the MLB level, which we've already seen they have, you could see multiple call-ups from Iowa. But if you get call-ups from Iowa, guess what? Shit travels downhill. So South Bend Cubs, these guys are the next wave. These are the guys that we need to look at. While full stat leaders are still developing early in the season, South Bend remains a pipeline team feeding Iowa and eventually into Chicago. This is where the tools turn into production. So what are you watching and what are you looking for when you talk about the South Bend Cubs? Hitters improving their OPS and their plate discipline, pitchers increasing strikeout rates and lowering their ERAs, and players making the jump to AA, which is a big step in development. When talking about South Bend, like I said, you got to look at it like this. A hitter is hot if the OPS is over 800, they're walking more, and they're cutting down on their strikeouts. A pitcher is rising up if they have a high strikeout rate, the ERA is under 350, and they are limiting their walks. So the big question, I know you guys want to know about this soon. Who's getting the call up next? Well, Pedro Ramírez is bat and glove ready now. James Triantos is safe. He has a high floor option. And then, of course, there's Kevin Alcántara. He has the highest upside and a power bat. You just crowded right now in that center field, especially with Michael Conforto being out there too, one of the older, more experienced guys. But again, there could be a time where you see Kevin Alcántara get the call up and get a chance out there. So we'll see. The Cubs farm system is starting to heat up at the right time because the big league club is going to end up needing some reinforcements, especially in pitching. That's what we're going to cover next week. I feel like we covered all hitters this week. Next week, we're going to look at AAA and AA pitching, and we will spotlight who those guys are who could potentially be getting the call up. So the question now becomes, do the Cubs trust these young guys or do they wait? Because based on what we're seeing in Iowa, help might already be readily available for them. So let me ask you guys, what were your thoughts on this? Who do you guys think should get the call up? Who are you most excited about in AAA that is shining right now that could potentially get the call up to the majors? Listen, I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks so much for tuning in to this first edition of I don't even know what I'm going to call this yet, but it's just another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget, our Chicago Cubs back in action, 1:20 start time up against the Arizona Diamondbacks. You guys don't want to miss it. Going to be a great game, a great weekend series, and an opportunity to take advantage of a team that is good but isn't better than our Chicago Cubs. We'll see what happens from there, and I'll be back with all the additions, all the action the day after. Until next time, go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.